When the news first broke, fans could hardly believe their eyes. Demet Özdemir, the actress who had once shared unforgettable on-screen and off-screen chemistry with Yaman, was suddenly standing her ground in a way that nobody had seen before. The headline read like a thunderbolt through social media, "Look in the mirror before you accuse me, Yaman." It wasn't just another tabloid whisper or a careless comment taken out of context. This time, Demet's words were sharp, direct, and impossible to misinterpret. But where did it all begin? To understand this explosive moment, we need to rewind. For years, Can and Demet have been tied together by the public imagination. Every time they appeared in the same room, sparks seemed to fly. From their legendary performance in Erkenci Kus to their countless behind-the-scenes clips filled with laughter, glances, and subtle touches, fans built the story of a couple destined to be more than just co-stars. And yet, behind the glamour and the fantasy, there were tensions, misunderstandings, and private wounds that never truly healed. Recently, a new wave of rumors began swirling around Yaman. His glamorous appearances with other women, whispers of jealousy, and unverified stories about secret meetings in Rome all started piling up. But instead of confronting the rumors head-on, Can seemed to let the blame drift toward Demet. Insiders hinted that he subtly suggested she had not been supportive, that she had somehow turned her back on him at key moments in his career. It was this subtle yet heavy blame that finally pushed Demet to snap. Her response wasn't delivered in a casual interview or buried in a magazine article. It was loud, clear, and designed to send shockwaves through the gossip world. "Look in the mirror before you accuse me," she fired back, her words carrying both pain and power. With that single sentence, she flipped the narrative. No longer was she the silent figure in Can's story, she was reclaiming her role as the woman who refused to be blamed for choices she didn't make. What stunned fans the most was the timing. Demet had just wrapped a major project in Turkey, and Can was in Italy dealing with the pressures of his own career and public image. The distance between them had only fueled speculation, but now, with one sentence, Demet reminded everyone that silence does not equal guilt. Her tone suggested years of unspoken tension, a private storm that had been brewing under the surface while the world believed in their perfect connection. And as those words echoed across social media, hashtags exploded. Hashtag Demet slaps back, hashtag Can and Demet truth, and even hashtag mirror message began trending. Fans took sides. Some argued that Demet was finally freeing herself from years of unfair expectations, others claimed her words revealed deeper wounds in a love story that still haunted both stars. One thing was clear. This was not the end of the conversation, it was just the beginning. The tension between Yaman and Demet Özdemir has always been a magnet for fans, but this time the story carried a much darker edge. Demet's sharp words, "Look in the mirror before you accuse me," weren't just a reaction, they were the culmination of years of silent endurance. To many, it felt like the first time she allowed the world to hear her unfiltered truth. Behind the cameras and the magazine covers, both stars had been navigating separate lives filled with pressure. Yaman, constantly chased by paparazzi in Italy, was seen as the unstoppable leading man, handsome, confident, a man who had every woman's attention. But fame is a double-edged sword, and with every smile on the red carpet came whispers of arrogance, jealousy, and control. Demet, on the other hand, had fought her own battles. She worked tirelessly in Turkey, carving out her career while being constantly compared to Can, as if her worth was forever tied to his name. So when insiders suggested that Can had blamed Demet for not standing by him or not protecting him from negative press, it struck a nerve. Why should she carry responsibility for his choices, his scandals, his reputation in Italy? She had always been careful, always professional, and above all, she had respected the bond they once shared. To be accused, even indirectly, was like reopening an old wound. Demet's words echoed the frustrations of countless women who are unfairly judged in the shadow of powerful men. "Look in the mirror" was not just directed at Can, it was a message to the entire industry, to the gossip press, and to anyone who dared to reduce her identity to someone else's mistakes. And fans noticed. Within hours, clips of her statement spread like wildfire. TikTok edits, Instagram reels, and Twitter threads dissected every syllable, every expression, every possible hidden meaning. Meanwhile, Ken remained silent. At least publicly. No official statement, no clarification, no apology. His silence was deafening, and in a way, it amplified Demet's power. Because when one side refuses to defend themselves, the other side's voice becomes the truth by default. Some fans speculated that Ken was caught off guard, unprepared for Demet to fire back so strongly. Others believed he was quietly strategizing his response, waiting for the right moment to take control of the narrative again. But there was something undeniably different about this scandal compared to others. In the past, rumors of fights, jealousy, and heartbreak between Ken and Demet often ended with playful interviews, vague smiles, or reconciliations on social media. This time, the break felt more permanent. Demet's words didn't sound like a lover's quarrel or an emotional slip. They sounded like a boundary. A line drawn in bold red ink. For fans who still dream of the magical days of Urkency Kuss, this was a bitter pill to swallow. Could this be the final chapter in a story they had kept alive for years? Or was it simply another dramatic twist in a relationship that thrives on passion, conflict, and intensity? Either way, Demet had just shifted the balance of power. She was no longer the actress rumored to be the one Ken left behind, she was the woman who spoke her truth with fearless clarity. As Demet's words continued to dominate headlines, the atmosphere around Yaman grew more tense. For a man who had built his image on strength, charm, and unshakable confidence, being publicly called out by Demet Özdemir was more than just a headline, it was a direct hit to his pride. "Look in the mirror before you accuse me" became a phrase repeated across tabloids, memes, and even morning talk shows. It was no longer just Demet's personal response. It had become part of the public conversation. Behind the scenes, sources close to Ken described him as frustrated and restless. Some insiders whispered that he felt betrayed, not because Demet had spoken, but because she had spoken so directly, leaving no room for him to twist her words. He had always controlled the narrative, but this time the spotlight wasn't flattering, it was exposing. Meanwhile, Demet's confidence seemed to grow. Friends and colleagues reported that she was finally done staying silent, finally done being polite when her name was dragged into stories she didn't create. On one interview set, she reportedly told a colleague, "People forget that I'm not a side character in anyone's life. I write my own story." That sentiment resonated with her fans, especially women who had followed her career from the very beginning. For them, Demet's stand wasn't just about Ken, it was about every woman who had ever been unfairly judged in someone else's shadow. The ripple effect of her words reached Italy as well. Entertainment programs there, where Ken is a massive star, debated the mirror statement endlessly. Was Demet suggesting he was guilty of the very things he accused her of? Was she pointing to his rumored arrogance, his short temper with the press, or perhaps his string of relationships that often ended in drama? Each theory added fuel to the fire, keeping both names locked in the center of the spotlight. But what made this moment unforgettable was the symbolism. A mirror is unforgiving, it shows the truth whether you like it or not. By telling Ken to look into one, Demet wasn't just rejecting his accusations, she was daring him to face his own flaws. To fans who believed their love story still had unfinished chapters, it felt like a painful reality check. Maybe the fairy tale had always been more complicated than it appeared. Still, the emotional charge of the scandal drew people in. Videos of Ken and Demet from their Urkency Kuss days began resurfacing online, paired with captions like "If only they could go back" or "How did it all come to this?" The contrast between their laughter on screen and the harsh words off screen was heartbreaking for those who had rooted for them all these years. And yet, some saw hope in the storm. "At least they're still speaking about each other," one fan tweeted, "because silence would mean it's truly over." Whether seen as a clash, a confrontation, or even a twisted form of connection, one thing was certain: Demet had shifted the narrative, and now everyone was waiting to see whether Ken would rise to the challenge or retreat deeper into silence. As the storm reached its peak, the world was holding its breath. Would Yaman finally respond, or would his silence become his loudest statement? For days, tabloids camped outside his favorite spots in Rome, hoping to catch even a single comment. Fans refreshed his social media, waiting for a story, a cryptic caption, maybe even a photo that could be interpreted as a reply. But nothing came. Each hour of silence only magnified Demet's words, making them ring louder across continents. In Turkey, commentators praised Demet's courage, calling her a role model for women who refuse to accept blame for things beyond their control. In Italy, journalists speculated whether Can's career could be affected by his refusal to face the accusations head-on. And on social media, the battle lines were clear. Team Demet celebrated her strength, while Team Can argued that her words had been too harsh, too personal, too final. The clash between their supporters became a story of its own, proving once again that their names together always sparked fire. But while the world debated, those who knew them best suggested something deeper. A source close to Demet revealed, she didn't say this just to hurt him. She said it because she needed to free herself from years of being tied to his shadow. Another insider claimed, Can knows she's right, but his pride won't let him admit it. These whispers painted a picture not of enemies, but of two people who once shared something powerful, now trapped between love, pride, and the harsh glare of fame. The irony is that their chemistry, the very force that made them global stars, also became the chain that bound them together long after their personal paths had diverged. Every new partner, every new project, every scandal was always compared to the golden days of Erkenci Kuss. Perhaps Demet's words were not just for Can, but for the fans too, a way of saying, stop holding me in the past. I am more than this story. And yet, for all the anger and hurt, there was also undeniable passion. Look in the mirror was not a phrase of indifference. It was fiery, personal, and intimate. If anything, it proved that the connection between them still carried weight. After all, indifference is the true end of a story, but passion, even in anger, means the bond is not completely broken. As the dust begins to settle, one truth remains clear: Demet Özdemir has claimed her voice. No longer the silent partner in a love story written by the media, she has stepped forward as a woman who refuses to be defined by accusations or shadows. Whether Can responds or not, her words have already changed the game. And for the fans? The saga of Can and Demet continues to be a roller coaster, one filled with love, pain, scandal, and unforgettable moments. Maybe this chapter will finally close the book, or maybe it will just set the stage for another dramatic twist. But one thing is certain, with every word, every glance, and every silence, they ensure that the world will keep watching, keep speculating, and keep believing in the story of Yaman and Demet Özdemir. Because love, even when fractured, never disappears, it transforms, it haunts, and it lingers in ways neither of them can truly escape.